Hey there VR gang, it's Brandon, your friendly internet postmaster. In this video I'll be going over how to set up and install the Real VR mod for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. The best place to start with installing the Real VR mod for any game is the game's release post. You'll always want to read over the post for instructions, important settings, known issues, and solutions or workarounds to those issues. If it's a recently supported game, you should be safe to download the mod version attached to the game post. But if it's been a while, and the Real mod or the game itself has updated versions, or quite possibly both, it's best to download the latest version of Real, which you should find attached to the Patreon welcome post. You can keep this download wherever you wish. I have it on my desktop for easy access for the purpose of this video. After downloading the file, it's also a good idea to go ahead and unblock it. You can do this by right-clicking on the file, selecting Properties, then clicking on the Unblock option at the bottom. Hit Apply, and then OK. This will hopefully stop any interference from your firewall or antivirus when running the config.bat file to install the mod. It's important that you run the game flat at least once before installing the mod. This will generate the user settings files needed for the mod to install correctly. So now we'll go ahead and navigate to the correct game folder where we'll install the mod files. I have the game on Steam, so for me, that would be on my D drive, and Steam, Steam Apps, Common, and then the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 folder. The pathway to the main game folder may be a bit different for you, depending on what platform you own the game on, or where you have it installed, but once you reach the main game folder, the rest should be the same. From here, you'll want to go into the bin folder, and then the Win64 Master folder. This is where we'll drop the mod files in. You can extract the zipped Real folder if you want to, but I find it easier to just double click and open it, then highlight all the files inside and drag them over. We can then run the config.bat file and the mod should install. Go ahead and follow the prompts in the install window and you should be good to go. It's also important to know that the mod installs a custom user config file for the game with two important commands. The first one will disable depth of field, and the second one will stop the camera from recentering while you're riding on horseback. It's important to keep these present in the user config file. You can add in other commands or try other config files available on Nexus, for instance, but you'll need to make sure these two commands are included or add them in. Of course, trying custom user config files is entirely at your own risk, and if you find that VR has issues after doing so, just run the config.bat file again, and it should replace this config file. As long as your headset is connected and active on your system, you should now be able to launch the game from your library, and it should boot up in VR. For this game, the mod should also automatically change some important graphics and display settings, but it's a good idea to double check after installing. I'll go ahead and put the settings section of the release post on screen while we check in game. Heading into the graphics settings menu, we want to make sure window mode is set to window, VSync is set to off, and frame limit is set to 240 FPS. There are two methods for changing resolution for this game in VR. Luke was able to mod in custom resolutions here in the game settings, but it only allows for 11:9 aspect ratios. So if you want titles and captions to show up fully in your headset, you'll need to set your resolution here. However, if you want to get the most performance you can out of your system and headset, you'll need to use the PPD slider in the main tab of the Real overlay. This will set a resolution that matches the aspect ratio of your headset, but this may end up cutting off captions and titles in the game. Do be careful to set a resolution that can run properly on your hardware, as these can go quite high. If you're new to these mods, start on the lower side and then work your way up after you adjust other graphic settings for optimal performance. In the resolution scaling section, if you have an NVIDIA GPU, you'll want to select DLSS4 and Transformer model for the best visual quality. This will use the DLSS fix, which should be enabled by default in the game tab of the Real overlay. This will get rid of shimmering around objects and help to stabilize image quality while using DLSS. You can then select whatever preset you need based on your PC hardware and performance needs. Do be careful how much sharpening you apply, as the mod has its own built-in sharpening called D-Blur. You can find the slider for this in the main tab of the Real overlay, and it defaults to all the way up. If you're using an AMD GPU, you'll have to use FSR or turn off upscaling completely. And then finally, in the camera effects section, we want to turn off motion blur and near depth of field so we don't get any image blurring in VR. For other graphics settings, feel free to experiment and set them according to your visual and performance needs. As always, I do recommend watching an optimized settings video or two. These two videos by Benchmarking and Hardware Unboxed are both great and will help you get the most out of the game's graphics settings in terms of FPS and visual quality. Above all, remember to have fun and enjoy being immersed in a fantastic medieval bohemian adventure. And until next time, praise the fun.